Good afternoon. Hi. Pretty good, pretty good. Okay, this is April 15th, 2019, the 46th National CALLERLAB Convention in Richmond, Virginia. This is the interest session on the Ceder square dance system. My name is Doren McBroom. I'm the moderator. We have, as panelists, we have Kris Jensen from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Ceder from California, Central California, Southern California. Okay, if you have questions, comments, when we get to that, please use the microphone. We'll give you a microphone, state your name and where you're from and your question. So, as I said, this is the Ceder square dance system. For those of you who have been wandered in and don't know what that is, it's a computer program that's a multi-purposed caller tool. I say multi-purposed, I mean it's multi-purposed. It does a lot of things. I've been using it for a very long time. Brian, would you close the door, please? And I sometimes turn to Kris for questions. Well, I was speaking to Kris earlier, and I have a question about some of the music database and how to set up different databases, and Kris says, it does that? Oh. I said, yeah, it does that. I'm a little fuzzy about a couple of things, but and she said, well, I use it for tags and for this. And I said, oh, it does that? Multi-purpose. It does a lot of different things. So I use it for writing choreography, for storing that in different databases, for pulling it up for a dance. And I use the music portion of it, the music database. The things that it'll do, like I said, you can write choreography, you can write it for 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, or 16 people, choreography, is that correct? More or less? More, yeah, okay. It'll write asymmetric choreography, hex choreography, so it's a very versatile kind of tool. In addition to that, you can write your sequences in any of the established programs, from basic through C4. And if you try to exceed, if you're writing for mainstream, I don't know if we can enlarge this or not.
Maximize.
Oh, maximize it, sure.
I'm sorry, what? Oh, I'm
just maximize the screen, yeah. There.
Hey.
Yes. So if you're writing in mainstream and you try to use the plus call, it'll say, hey, you know what you're doing? It'll let you do it if you want to, but it'll warn you.
Specialty squares.
Specialty squares.
All right, get it, turn it up.
Okay, so you can also, the music database I find particularly nice. I use it. Some people don't. Some people use other programs for the database. I like it this way. One particularly neat feature that maintains a cue sheet database. Voice up.
Are you on, Doren? Yeah, you're on.
I'm on.
Hold the microphone closer.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. It maintains a cue sheet database, and it keeps it updated. So when you import a singing call into the database, if you have it labeled properly with the name, the label, and the label number, he automatically links the cue sheet to it. You don't have to worry about it. It just pulls it up immediately when you do call from the screen. So those are just kind of the highlights of it. So let's get started and turn it over to Kris.
Yeah, I thought I'd start off and then we'll let Vic answer all the questions. I'm not quite sure why I'm here with Vic here. But as Doren says, it does music, it does choreography, and it does organizing your choreography for a dance, so setting up a dance. And it also will keep track of the dances that you've called, the dates, and keep track of what choreography you used on those dates, what music you used, and things like that. So it is a complete system. How many people here are already using CSDS? Have it, not using it? Okay, so first, music. Doren was talking about music. I'm going to just demonstrate the adding a tune and how it links up with the database automatically. I'm on a Mac. I'm running Windows in a virtual system. So The actual music controls are going to look a little small on this. I put in a tune into this folder. I personally keep all of my music in one folder. And then I bring it into the database. There's just one music database. And in that database, you have a lot of control over how you label and tag your records so that you can easily find them. This is my music database. You'll notice up here there are buttons that are search buttons, basically. They're saved searches. So if I just want to look at all of my patter music, I click that button or hit F1, and that's all of the patter music, the music that I have tagged as a patter music in here. So I'm going to add one tune that's already in the file folder. So it's just add new music file. It happens to be Hillbilly Rock, so I just type that, click on it, open it, and it'll come up and it says, do you want to process the MP3 tags? And I'll say, sure, go ahead, not that there are any. And here's where I can do the initial organization. It has genre flags, and you can have your own flags, except for, I think, singer, patter, and round are hard-coded in.
Right. So
this is going to be a singer, but if it were both a singer and a patter, I could click both. I've added flags for kids and for country western music and for contra music. I've got a Christmas list, and non-traditional pattern music. So those are things that I've set up. So I add that in. It added a music file, brings up the editing thing here. Okay. Notice it, because of the way I named the file, it was name of tune hyphen label hyphen label number. All of that came in automatically. We have our nice ESP logo. And it is already down here put in the cue sheet. So from Vic's database, the cue sheet is in there automatically. So nothing I had to do, it will just be there. Now, if the music is brand new, the cue sheet may not be in there yet. Debbie has to do that.
So Debbie is constantly adding cue sheets and lyrics to our website. And they're all available up there, and the program can go and connect to the web, download all the latest stuff, put it in on your local drive, and then it can eventually pull it into your music database and associate it with the particular piece of music you put in there. And so then when you bring it up, it'll bring up the cue sheet and the lyrics.
Okay, I'm going to close my database file right now where I was adding. I've brought up the music player. CSDS does not have its own music player. It uses Winamp. Or does it use the Windows Media Player also?
It's got about 3 or 4
Yeah.
music players in it right now. Winamp is the smoothest one right now for transitioning for loops and things.
Okay, so I'm going to close the database. I didn't save it. It will prompt me to make sure that I do save it. And there's the music player. From here, I can play the music. It's set up to be a singing call, so you see that it's got indicators of where you are in the music. It's got various features, loading, controls, so this is where I can actually control the tempo of the music. I can slow it down, speed it up. I can change the pitch, change the volume and the balance. And so this is where, before I use the tune, I would probably count beats. It doesn't do it automatically. I have to actually count beats, but this is the kind of work I do on airplanes. Listen to music, do that. I can also set loops, and again, it's listening, marking the start of the loop, marking the end of the loop. I don't know that there are any tricks to that. Got any special hints for doing that quickly? I just count.
Well, for the beat counter, you just push a key for each beat, and it'll estimate what the beats per minute is. And then for setting the loops, what I usually do is,
Yeah, for setting for counting, I'm just hitting the K key and it's not counting. Yeah, yeah. I thought I was focused. There we go. So I'm just hitting a key, and I was nervous and hit it too fast, but anyway.
You have the opportunity to do it again.
Right. So I can do it again.
So you're, by hitting a key, you're just tapping out the beat?
Yep, I'm just counting out the beat.
So you tap it about 25 times and it averages out.
Yeah.
It's probably more accurate than some of the programs that actually try to count it for you.
And so for the looping, I would just start playing it, and I mean, this is not something that I would loop generally because it's a singing call, but 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, start. And that would set the, except it didn't, but didn't press it. Oh well. Details, details. I was hitting the K key. All right. 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, set it. So, and then I would go to the end and set it, and then you can see that you've got really, really fine controls here if you want to play with it to set it exactly as you want it. At this point, I would move down here. I don't know how this ends.
I used to move to the end about the fourth area.
Fourth area?
Key change
Yeah, sometimes you get a
there.
key change. One, 2, 3, 4. That was at the beginning of that one, the closer, I think. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, set it. Okay, so now we can test the loop. Test loop. So it would need a little bit of adjusting, but I can do that really easily just with sliders.
And usually, you set the loop so that's the end of the 64-beat
Right.
stanza or whatever you call it. And then if because of the key instrumental changes or other key things, you can actually take the setting you hit and shift it, a second or two in one direction so that it smooths things out so you get abrupt key instrumental coming in. So you can kind of move once you've got the exact distance set, you can move it around so you get it so it sounds very smooth.
Right, and for the benefit of the tape, that music may not have been picking up, but we were playing with music. And so it's all got one-button controls. Once you get used to the playing it, you can hit P to play, and there are various things. You need to get that on the mic.
If I have a list of MP3 files, can I take all of them and put them into this, just copy and go over here somehow and paste them into this, or do I have to do these one by one?
Oh, you just go to the music database and select the first item that says something, add a set of files. So you just basically go to the folder that the files are in, and you basically click OK. It'll add all MP3 files in WAV or whatever you have in there that are not already in your database. It'll add it to your database.
Right, so...
So if they're already in there, it won't add them again.
And then,
so
then
that's right here, add new music files from folder.
okay, so that would be like highlighting my whole music library of MP3s over here to add to this,
Right.
And then once I get them in there, I have to go individually and track them. Is that right?
You have to
Yes.
set the loops.
Yes, individually,
Yes,
regardless of how they've been tracked before, like in my SD player.
yeah, Vic is
It's a completely
stored.
different system
Yeah, right.
in how it stores things.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, I've actually got up the database here, so you can see it's storing a bunch of different information. It's storing all those flags. It's storing the start of the loop and the end of the loop. The duration is storing whether you've adjusted the tempo. So all of this information is here in the database stored, and that's how it keeps track. Yes.
Mike Prescott from Anchorage, Alaska. On your loopback control, is there a default setting, like so many seconds in?
Yes,
or certain
15
percentage
seconds in, 15
Okay.
seconds out.
Thanks.
So, and I use that if I just put in a new piece of music and just want to play it, and without having gone through that. So it just will do the default.
And also, while you're playing the music, if you know, like in the old days when you had those vinyl things that went around in a circle, you know, what I would typically do when I'm calling is, you know, I'd let it call, and then when I'm giving the next command, you know, as my voice goes up and the music goes down, then I reset the record at that point, you know, so the dancers don't notice as much as you know. And you got the same, you can have the same thing, there's a button on the music player you can press to go to the beginning of the loop. So you could actually still force it to go back to the beginning of the loop if you wanted by pressing the, what is the L key, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, the L key.
So without really tracking.
Yeah, you can tell it to go back to the beginning of the loop at any time by pressing a key. And the whole music player and the call from the screen and all that is all oriented so there's a single keystroke to do something. P for
Right.
play, P for pause.
Roy got it from New Jersey. Can you set the number of loops? In other words, say you only want it to loop one time, because sometimes callers, since they're not putting their record back anymore, next thing you know, they're doing 20-minute patterns because they don't realize it. But can you set it so it just loops once and then goes to the end of the piece of music?
There is no such thing in there at this point for such a thing. You can press a key to tell it to turn off the looping.
Right.
Okay,
You can hit an
that's fine.
A
Right, and
while
there's-
you're calling. Just hit the A and it turns off the loop.
And there's also a timer on there that will, once you've exceeded whatever you set it for, I set mine for 6 or 7 minutes for a mainstream or plus tip. You know, for the pattern part, it'll go off and it can play a little sound or start flashing your screen or what have you.
Right. So I
Let
just
you know you've been on too long.
put up the timer, and you know, that shows that I'm doing 10 minutes, but I can shorten it down, and it turns red when I'm going too long. So, and you can set it to do other things too. So that's the music playing part, but that's a fairly minor part. Susan.
Susan Morris from Redmond, Washington. So I do have a question about getting the lyrics. If the lyrics are on your website, but I can't get them into the program, is there something I'm missing?
The lyrics, well, if they're in this database, it's really easy to get them into the program. If they're not in the database, then you can have your own. So let me go in and, let's see.
Okay, so if you find the lyrics to the song that we don't have in our database, send it to Debbie, and she'll put them up on our site, and then they can be downloaded for everybody. We've got a lot of people that just basically send us all the cue sheets, all the lyrics and stuff, and Debbie's always putting stuff up there.
But it's the other way.
Okay, but what if you want to have your own lyrics?
Okay.
Okay. What I do is if I want to have my own cue sheet with my own lyrics, I will, let's see, is that under controls? No. I have to edit the item in the database? Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. But anyway, I can go into the database. Let's take Hillbilly Rock and say that I didn't want, where is it from here? Okay, okay, little pencil thing, right. Okay, there we go. It's very little on here. So I could actually go here to where the cue sheet is, and I can say browse for file. And I could go into music, and I've got them all in SD music and MP3s, and in there I have a lyrics folder, and that's where I put my lyrics, and I could put in any file that I want. HTML I think works best for formatting.
Okay.
So what I'll do sometimes is, just take the cue sheet that comes with the music when you buy it from a producer, and they do HTML files usually, and I'll just put it in here and then add it. Okay.
So this is any file that's on your computer, you can link it to it,
Right.
so it'll pull that up.
So others don't get that, is that right?
Right, others wouldn't get that. That would be your personal, like, if Deb writes a great parody or something, she could have her own lyrics right there and not use the normal lyrics. So that's the music player. Any other questions about that? You can tag the music, you can have music playlists. I have a playlist for duets, I have a playlist for holiday music, I have a playlist for Roaring Twenties music because I did a dance for that. I have a playlist for old rock and roll. These are all things that I've set up in advance, and it just helps me keep the music organized. You can create a playlist for a specific dance. If you're doing one and you just want to limit the music that you're going to use, I set up a playlist in advance. These are called quick lists. There is also the music cue, and I use that when I'm calling. I'll have the patter music going, I'll put a singing call in the music cue, and the minute I hit the stop button on the patter music, the music that's on my cue comes up right away, so I don't have to mess around with loading a singing call. It's just right there, assuming I've chosen it in advance.
Can you say that again? Yeah.
Sure, okay, so there's a music cue. I don't have anything on it right now, but when I'm in, say, a quick list of songs that I've wanted to do, and if I say want to do Boogie Shoes as my singing call, I can go up here and, this is so small for me, that's one, and hit a button where I can add it to my music cue. Okay, so now I'm going to be playing some other music. All right, and I'm playing music for the tape, music, and then I hit stop on it. Come on. Why aren't you doing that for me? Oh well.
But you have an audience.
Yeah. It's going, but yeah, okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay, and then immediately comes up the tune that I have queued up, and I can just say play, and it'll start playing right away. So I like it because I'm not messing around trying to find a singing call. Yeah,
You can repeat this for. So along that line, do you have a function on there that starts the music after your break is ending? Like
Yes.
if you're back at the hall and your music starts automatically, you know that it's time.
I use that all the time.
Yeah, so there's that function also.
Right.
There's a tip timer, which times your tip, okay? And then there's a break timer. So you can set your tip timer for
Timer, break
6,
timer.
7, 10 minutes, and your break timer for 3, 4, 5, whatever. And each one of them can play a different MP3 file or something to let you know something's done.
Right. What do you use? A horse, right?
I use a horse for my patter, so I've been on too long. When the horse goes, I know, oh, it's time. I'm done. I try to pick something not too obnoxious for that, but then for the break timer, I pick something that's a little more audible, so when I'm running around, I hear it.
No.
Sometimes.
Yeah. For my break timer, I usually just have the music start playing, and it brings the dancers right up on the floor.
Hello, Mike Gormley. I think it was Darren that mentioned when you're sitting, pushing the K key for beats per minute to set it. He said it took an average and all of that, but that's also settable for a range of clicks, correct? in the settings?
Oh.
Anywhere from like 16 to 20 or
Yeah,
16
there's
to 24? Is it just the longer you go, the more accurate it's gonna be? Is that what it also?
Right, I mean, if you accidentally hit the key 2 times real quickly or something, I mean, you could be off. The smaller the number, the less accurate the count's gonna be. So I picked, I think, a 24 or something as a default, which gives you
I think I'm currently using 16 or something.
Okay.
Is that adequate?
well, it's basically adequate because, you're gonna get a number, 128.4, and you really don't care about the 0.4 that much anyway. So, and 127, 128, it's pretty much the same, so it's accurate enough. And it's basically used for, when it displays the beats per minute up there, and when you, slow it down a bit, you can see approximately where it is.
Okay, so that pretty much covers the music player, at least touches the highlights. So
Right.
the program does so many more things.
Right, I know. So I use it to write sequences. As a mainstream plus caller, I use it to write and save get outs and singing calls. As a challenge caller, I use it to write whole sequences. All right, you store your choreography in databases, and the databases are pretty specific. They're specific to a level and to a type of sequence. So, for example, here the last thing I edited was an advanced zero-line get out. Okay, and so that's one database. I have a database of advanced zero box get outs. I should be using corner box and, partner lines, but hey, I'm old. And I have, so if I were going to do a new sequence, I would do, well, first of all, let me just create a new database. So I would create a new sequence database, I'm going to go new graphics, and database, and new database. Okay, give it a name, A2 temp. One of the problems with CSDS, I think, in my opinion, is the fact that he limits file names to 8 characters, because he wrote it back in the MS-DOS days, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, it will be changed eventually. But
Oh, yeah.
That's where the description comes into play.
Right. So I give it a name, and then I set up what I want, and I can give it a nice long description. Temporary database set up at CALLERLAB when I'm working, not quite that long, but all right. So I set the number of dancers, and as I can set up hex rectangle, I can set up triangle, I can set up, looks like up to 16, but there are probably more than that in the special ones. But so 8 dancers. Maximum level, and I have to set that, so let's say I'll do A2V. These are levels that Vic has defined. You can actually put calls on the levels or take them off. It's your choice. This is so configurable. You can do anything you want practically, except have more than 8 characters in a file name. All right, type of sequence. Normal sequence, a short sequence, singer right-hand ladies, stir the bucket, or modules. So I'm going to take modules, and once it takes, okay, and I can set it up that I want it to go. How did I do that? I don't know. Anyway, I can set it up to go from a static set to a zero box, so that would be a get in. Notice he uses zero box and zero lines too. He's old too. No? Okay, anyway, I can set it up to be whatever I want. I will do from a zero line to a resolve, so that would be a get out. Okay, there's some other things that I can set. I'll let Vic explain about lists. And say okay, and then I don't know how that started out. And of course it's all modal, so. Anyway, so here, There we go, yeah.
It's mobile.
It's modal. Modal, we love modal. No, I'm not going to create another database. There we go. All right, back to my sequence. I should be able to do edit A2 temp 1, which was what I just started, except I didn't want to do text. Thank you. Can I get to graphics from text? Okay, well, graphics. Okay. All right, thank you, Vic. So, here are the issues in writing sequences, or you type in a command. Vic uses databases. I'm sorry, Vic uses abbreviations.
Yeah.
SD uses call completion. So, switching back and forth between the two, I find somewhat challenging.
So you have to know, you have to think like Big Cedar to find the abbreviation.
No, you can type in what you want. So I would start and I would type heads slash. My abbreviation for square through 4 is SQ4. That may not be his, but I put in my own abbreviation and it said, didn't like it. Head square through 4. Oh, I'm starting from lines. Duh.
That'll be a problem.
All right. SQ4. Okay, and it does it. And so I find I can enter things really quickly. The problems that I might have is when I don't think the way Vic's database does in terms of how I would say a call, and so I'm not saying it correctly. Usually I can fix that with a quick email to Vic. Or I put in something that is not yet in Vic's. The way Vic does this is he matches what's on, how the dancers are with a snapshot database, and that says how to do the call. And I may manage to do something that is not yet in the snapshot database, and one of the strengths of Vic's program is I just put it in. You know, if I figure out some weird formation for a call and it's not in there, I just tell the program how to do it. Often when that happens to me, the first thing I think is, uh-oh, this is not legal from here. So,
when I do that, I'm always careful as to mark that as private so it doesn't get out to anyone else. So if I make a mistake, it's only on my machine. Does your program actually take the ones that I put in and...
No.
Okay. I didn't think I had to mark it as private.
It's a good idea. Some people in the old days, when the program was still being developed, would send me their databases and I could import what they did in there.
Right, I thought that what I put in, what I put in
I don't-
stays on what
Yes.
I do. Whew. Okay, so you can do things pretty quickly. I'm going to finish this up here. Trade by, right and left through. Trade by, right and left through.
Just hold it for it, Doren.
Swing through.
Swing through,
Boys run.
boys run, half tag.
Oops. No, there's There- abbreviations. You can put in your own abbreviations too. Two tag. Okay. So you can see you have the figures. They move around. Mine, I colored. You can customize the color of the figures. Mine are colored according to the set of checkers that I have used since I started calling. So Vic undoubtedly has different colors. So you do your sequences. I've got thousands of them. And they're in these various databases. So the next thing that you can do is set up a dance. Okay? And in the dance you put in your various sequences. I have, a lot of different dances. I'm just going to set up a new dance. Small file name again. And I can mark the date that I'm going to call the dance. And there are other fields that I can fill in. I can give it a nice description. I can say what the location is, the club, and I can associate a quick list of music with that dance, so that every time that dance comes up, it brings up a set of music that I've pre-prepared. Okay, and then the dance comes up. To edit the dance, each dance has 10, you can have 10 frames, which you can think of as piles of sequences. So you can put in your sequences from your various databases. What I'm going to do, just to demonstrate this, because this is a feature that I fairly recently discovered, is I have a template that I've done beforehand that just brings in all of my C1 sequences. Okay, so I'm going to hit C1, and it just filled in using from all of my C1 databases, basically, and put them into frames in the dance. And from there, I can go to my date filter and say, well, that's all well and good, but I just called in the Bay Area, and I'm calling there again, and I don't want to use the sequences that I just called there. So I'm going to filter those out. Okay, and I can set filters for all various dates, so I don't reuse sequences that I've used before. Okay, so I'll do that. And I can also, if I were a C1 site caller, which I do some, I can set up a site calling setup. So it's going to bring in a list, and I'm going to go from there and show you what it looks like. Save changes, absolutely. And it gives me a summary. So it removed 136 sequences because I called them last week in the Bay Area. And it shows me how many sequences I have in the various categories. And I'll show you then what it looks like. What? Okay, there we go. It's got the cue sheet from the last piece of music that I had playing accidentally. So these are all single function keys. I can go to the different frames. If I have that shouldn't stop it from doing anything. So you can navigate through the frames. I can go through the various sequences. I can shuffle all of the sequences so they come up in a different order than I wrote them in. I can get a frequency count for how often I use each call in that set of sequences. I can edit the sequence if I want to. Just brings up the editing window. So there's a lot I can do from here. When I'm calling, I can set this up in different ways. This is the way I usually have it set up, with the sequences on one side. This is a site calling area. It shows a bunch of calls randomly selected. When I use a call, I can click on it and it will get rid of that call and put in another call. So it just helps, if you're site calling, keeping you fresh and using different calls. And also down here, there are a bunch of get outs that the program also includes. So I could look at that and go, oh, here I am in a corner box, and find a get out.
You mean a zero box?
I'm translating on the fly. So those are all things that you can do with your dance. Shuffle the sequences, set them up. There are different ways to get sequences into a dance, which I have discovered. So I'm going to get out of that mode, go into my sequence mode. I can find several sequences. So I could go into a database, look for all the sequences that use tally-ho, and just bring up a list of all of them, and then import those into my dance right from there. I've discovered this fairly recently too, so a new thing to play with. I can also just, when I'm viewing sequences, so here I am in sequence and I go to view. From here I can go to a database, and from here I can easily add a sequence to a dance. Okay, I think it's add to dance down here. Okay, one of the cool things when you are calling a dance, let's go back here, is, let me go to one with a fairly long thing. So I'm here and the whole floor crashes, okay? Bam, they all crash. Except for 2 squares, that's right. So double click, this shows get outs from where I am right now. So I can easily, it says 2 squares are still dancing, everybody's crashed. So I'll go in here and call Minnie Busy, Dixie Grand, Alamand left. And that gets the people who are actually successful out. And then if I want to set it back up so that I can start from that position and dance again, I can go over here and call side, square through 4, right and left through, veer left, crossover, circulate, and I'm back in the same phaser that I was in. So, question? Mike?
I just want to make sure I understood how you got to that window. You say you double click at the spot that you last called when you noticed the whole floor, you lost the whole floor.
Right, I double clicked where I am right now. I just called boys tag back to a wave. And, you know, some squares have already crashed, but that's what I just called. So that's where I would double click, and then I could quickly get out the squares that are still dancing.
Okay.
And then get back to that position if I wanted to.
And certainly, if they crashed 1 or 2 calls before that, so you could
Right.
back up a couple calls and then look for the get-ins from that position.
Right, I could go, so they
Set them up
crashed.
quickly rather than call all the blah, 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 blah,
Right.
blah in front of it.
So I could get them back to the all 8 circulate before the peeling trail that broke them down, say.
That's a pretty cool feature. So can you import sequences that were written in Word elsewhere and put them into your system?
You can do SD, right?
You can import text files. So you can import,
Okay.
you can import a...
Like the original
You
form
can
of
import
it.
an SD file, like, there may be a few little glitchy things there,
Yeah.
because I haven't done it in a while. Or you can, there's a format of text files that you can basically have a sequence, put an @ sign in the next, to separate the two sequences in a file, you can import them all together. So you just write out a text file, then just put an @ sign between the sequences, and the text file will import them all.
From a text file, not a Word file.
Not
Right,
Word file.
not a Word
You
file.
have to save it as text.
Yeah, okay.
Deb Castle, Philadelphia. As you're writing a dance, will it tell you what you haven't used yet from the list?
Yes, that's part of the thing
He
that
was
Kris
going
said
to
I
talk
might
about
show later.
show lists, right.
You
So
basically set up a list, and then, which is basically starting a frequency count, and then you tell it to display the calls. I've only called 0 to 1 times, or 0 to 0 times. Basically shows you what you're lacking for that dance.
All right, I'm going to turn the video over to Vic, so. All right, other questions while we're getting the video set up? Yes, Susan.
Could someone get me a glass of water, please?
And we need time for
Battery change.
battery change.
Battery change. Good.
Okay, you got me. Okay, so Susan from Washington again. 2 questions. One is there a way to delete music off the database that you no longer want?
Yes.
Okay, and then is there a way to delete sequence lists that you also no longer want?
Yes.
Okay.
You can delete anything
Anything
you
you
want.
want.
In fact, that's what some users try to do. They try to fool me by deleting certain pieces of the program and see if I can fix it for them again.
Okay, yeah, you've got the lyrics up.
Okay, Vic?
Well, if we get Alan.
Name, please.
Alan Hurst, Sunnyvale, California. This is regarding the CSDS2 installation, because we're at a quick break.
No, we're not.
Oh, we're not in a quick break? Never mind, I'll ask later.
But you want to say how you get it, how you get it.
Yeah, I was going to go through that earlier. CALLERLAB does not endorse products at all. They've given us this forum to talk about it, but they're not making an endorsement of it, okay? I don't have any financial ties to CSDS whatsoever. So I can tell you that if you're interested in the program, go to ceder.net, CEDER.net. Look for the CSDS link, and you'll find all the information you need. Is that good?
End of story.
Okay, well, I mean, Kris did cover a lot of stuff there. I mean, to me, the three primary parts of the program is you can write the choreo, and that involves the get-ins, get-outs. I can show you, basically we could do a whole session on how to write choreo with the program and how to do music with the program. There's a whole, I mean, she's just skimmed the surface on several of these pieces of things. And then there's this whole call from screen section right here that is up, And, you've got here, I've got the cue sheet for Hello Dolly, I've got the lyrics, I've got plus lists showing up, I got my mainstream list, I got my site call section here. And, Kris said you can just click on it. Well, you can, if you have a touch screen, you can just touch it and it should go away. It should. Or you can just push that number in front of the 3 will move it away. So once you call one of these calls, you just hit a key, push it, whatever, it goes away, next one pops up. And this is pretty useful in terms of, exercising most of the calls when you're doing a site call. You can also bring up the list of whatever you're calling here, look at the list, see what you got here. On the right-hand side there's all these frames. They're labeled F1 through F10. There's like 6 frames here. There's the F1. And I keep like newer material in one frame, like uncalled material, untested. I might have older sequences, asymmetric, and you can change the background of the different frames so that your asymmetrics are green, your singing calls might be in a different color. I have some 6-couple material here that I have in yellow, so that if you accidentally pull up a different frame and it's a different color, you go, oh, there's something about this. Oh, this is a singing call figure, not a regular patter figure. There's a timer, when you start the tip, it'll go up there in the upper right-hand corner, and you can set that forever how long you want. It can play a little tune or something. If it exceeds, there'll be a little sound like that might show up. Why is that so loud? It's not even in here. Yes.
So on your sequence that shows up there, the word center or same sexes or single hinder, what do those mean?
Well,
when you're editing the sequence,
you can put highlighting around it. Let's see if we got something that's got double highlighting. So here's an interesting thing. So this one, anything that I want to make sure I say or emphasize, boys, girls, so all identifiers I'll highlight. Boys, girls, centers, ends, whatever. At the end, the and roll, I'll say and roll. Make sure I say that. This, where diamond circulate is underlined and highlighted, that's a call that's optional. I could be calling a sequence, leave that off and still keep going. And then all of a sudden later on, it's like, oops, something happened. So a call that I must say that I might tend to forget, like if it's a different formation all of a sudden, you need to put that underlined.
So you're physically underlining that when you edit. It's
Right.
not within the program that does that, right?
No, eventually I'm going to put some sort of automatic system to do that.
one of the things that it does do though, you don't have it set to do that, but it will put a list of all the calls that are on the level that the database is up at the top, so that you can look at a glance at a sequence and say, oh, this sequence uses tally-ho and scatter, scoot, chain through.
So from here,
Yeah, right there.
this is a plus sequence. It uses coordinate and load the boat. Those are the only 2 plus calls on there. So I can go by and look around here and see, I can quickly, while they're promenading home, whatever, I can tap around and find something that's got whatever. And perhaps I just want to find a call that has trade the wave in it, or so there's a search function. Okay, so here's a sequence with trade the wave. Here's the next sequence with trade the wave. Here's the next sequence. So if I'm workshopping a particular call or whatever, or I'm workshopping trade the wave, or not workshopping, emphasizing, and then so I'll find next trade the wave sequence, and then maybe I'll go to the singing calls and want to find a singing call's got trade the wave in it. There it is. So I can quickly pull up whatever call I'm emphasizing for that tip.
So those are sequences that you've already imported into that dance.
Yes, these are, and actually the database right here I'm looking at is from our website, and these are singing call sequences on the website. And there's actually 568 in there, so I can find plenty of singing calls with trade the wave in it, right there.
Castle, Philadelphia. You have the ones that do the whole program. Can you limit programs to like a class list if you get something ahead of time from a club?
Okay, so I guess the easiest way to do that is to go in and edit the dance. So I'm going to go in and edit this dance here. Something edit dance, and there's the thing. There's something called a call filter here. There's a call filter tab. You click on that, it shows you all the calls that are used in there, and basically you would just go in and select. Hold on, you select a couple. Like suppose these calls here. This is a plus dance. I mean, it says quarter in. Maybe I said face in or something. The program got confused. But I could take all this stuff and just say remove from dance. There's a little thing here. So whatever calls, you could set up this big dance and then remove these calls from the dance by just clicking remove from dance. It says, you want to remove these from the dance? Fine. And then it goes and removes them. And then you just save the dance again, you've got it back. I'm not going to save this because I want to keep those dance. So I'm not going to save change, so discard changes. Okay. So that's how that's basically done now. In the future, I've got a humongous list of future enhancements and things to do with the program. And one thing is I want to be able to set up, you can set up your teach order in this order, and then it can, somehow filter in and out calls that are at that level.
So what about,
As you know, I'm teetering always on the edge of actually going to this, but
You've been doing that for you.
you know that. Yes, I know. Vic knows that. But anyway, what about the function of proofreading or not proofread yet? Can you remind us what that was, or is that still there? Or what did that mean?
Well, proofread means it's gone through the program and it's been validated as correct. So if I take maybe this sequence here, I go in and edit it. I'll edit it in, edit graphics mode, I suppose. I'll go in here and instead of let me back up a little bit further. How about we just don't do this diamond circulate and see what happens. Take that out. Okay, it's getting confused. Doesn't know what to do. I saved the sequence anyway. I think at least I thought I did. What is it doing? Go back.
Did you notice that it said 7 get-outs there? So when you get to a place in the choreography and you say, well, maybe I should get out here, if you don't want to think of a get-out or write your own get-out, you can choose one of the pre-written get-outs that are in the program.
I didn't have the flag set to put it at the top. So here it says not proofread. So it means the sequence will not resolve. And that's by default that goes up there. But since I know all mine resolve, I mean, I might as well.
but we can put that on for ours?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Say that for ours, right? Okay.
If you choose to use an included get-out, it's your responsibility to look at that and make sure it's something that you want to call. They're not always wonderful get-outs.
Yeah, so the get-outs that are in here, for example, I'll cut off some of this stuff here. And, how about that? So here's a formation, and if I find the get-outs from here, it's coming up with, well, only came up with 3 plus level. And so maybe I want, that was what I want here. use that one. Recycle and roll, boys circulate twice, element left. Double click on it, it adds it, puts it in there, and there we are. It'll tell you how far, the get out takes to promenade, how far away you are from home, so you kind of know what quadrant you're in. Because I like all my get outs so the dancers don't back up on their promenade. So if they're a quarter to halfway across the set, they can do a right left grand, and then they're a short promenade home. So I really worry about what quadrant they're in for the resolves. Let's see. What else can we show you here? We can show you some specialty squares. That might be fun.
Isn't that still in the working on?
Yeah, but it's kind of interesting, right? So here's kaleidoscope squares. So I do some of these occasionally, and this helps me. I can say 1 and 3's trade, half square through, move on to the next, load the boat, have another half square through.
So you need 16 couples to do that?
Yeah. Move on, whatever, square through 3. Move on, pass through. Let's not spell it right. Move on. How do we resolve this? Load the boat again. Try that. And then this one doesn't give you get outs. Half square through. Move on. Star through. Oops. Oh, so there I didn't understand what I said. So at this point, it can give me the option to add an abbreviation, or if I typed in, maybe the abbreviation might be ST. Well, it says, I don't know if that's sachet through, slide through, split transfer, square through, star through, whatever. So I'll just tell it star through. And then 1s and 3's trade, and you're back at home.
I thought you just site called all those.
I just site called that one.
Doren McBroom. Vic, I have a question about the dates database. So if I call for a club that I call for annually, how do I go back, when I'm preparing for 1 year, find out what I did last year?
Okay, so there's a dates database that keeps track of all the dates where you call things. And when we were back at that dance database here, you'll notice there's all these frames here, and this is basically each one of these frames, like this one up here, has a list of these sequences from the plus database, and so on and so forth. So when you call one of these sequences, it will put it in this used list here. So here are a list of things I've used at this dance. And at the end of that, you can import these into something called the dates database. And at that point, it'll keep track of what you've called. So if I go to this dance again, I probably called some of these elsewhere. Let's try older sequences, push here. Okay, so I called this particular sequence in 2004 in San Francisco, because it says it on the lower corner there. And that one's called Toronto, Canada. This was at the fly-in in Toronto.
That's just a
You remember
And we can do the same thing with the music that I used.
You can do that with the music. It's not as well implemented, but if I go into a date and edit the date, maybe I'll select this one. Here's a list right here of the music that I called at that dance. You can grab it. You can grab the music from the history list. So every time you play a piece of music, it adds it to the history list. And if you've only used that history list for that dance, you can grab it and import it in here.
Right, and if you haven't only used that history list for that dance?
Or you can go in here and start deleting
Right,
rows.
that's what I do. I just bring it all in and then delete the ones from before the dance. So I do use the history list and do use.
So the dates database here will also keep track of, with level, numbers, squares, who you called with, whatever. You can put other items. So there's a lot of database stuff going on in the program here. I don't use necessarily all of it, but.
Okay, how would you add a new call?
How would I add a new new call. Ooh, okay. Well, I might be sitting here. Adding a new call has two parts. You have to tell the program what the name of the call is, and you have to tell the program how to do it. Okay, so let's go add a new call. You would go to, normally you wouldn't really do this too much, but you go to the list.
Well, suppose I was looking at Burleson's and I had a, Hawaiian theme, and there was a call called like on the beach or it was in Burleson's and it was like on the beach or something. Or
hula through. Let's add hula through. Okay, so I'm going to go to list database. This is going to cause problems, Okay.
We'll just have to undo it all later on. I want to see how we get this.
Hold on, I haven't done this for a while. It should be in the list here. List database.
So I recently used the change level of calls issue there because of track anything went from C3B to C1. So, and there hadn't been an update.
I haven't updated that yet.
Right, so I updated it so I wasn't getting these warnings every time I used it at C1.
Okay, so here's how you add a call. Go to list database, edit. Okay, and you select new or edit new record, and we're going to call it hula what?
Through.
Hula through. Great. It's not going to end in olate. Okay, so I'm going to choose level. I'll choose whatever. Pick a level for me. Oh, great. They're going to love learning this. Okay, so it wants to know the type of the call over here. It's just going to be normal call, and I'm going to mark it as garbage because I don't want it to show up very much. I had a number of parts, pieces, all sorts of stuff you can have, whether it's sex dependent or not. I'm just going to default all that. All right, so we're done. Save it. Save it the database. I'm just saving it. Oh yeah, what is the handle of it? The handle number is 2154
Okay,
over
that's
here.
important. You have to write that down. So.
People are not going to be doing this. This is just to demonstrate that you can do
Anything.
all sorts of anything. So I'm going to say save. And then I need to go into the parse database, which is how the program converts text into a number. I'm going to edit it. And I'm going to also add hula through. Somebody come up with the definition. What was it, 2154?
Yeah, I didn't write it down.
Yes.
Well, we'll find out.
Do a double sachet.
We'll say save. Cool, it's there.
Pretty good.
All right,
Sachet
we
one
got it.
sachet back.
It's double sachet with a skirt flare.
Yeah.
Okay, so there we are. We added hula through.
So now you can write a sequence.
Now we're going to write a sequence with hula through. Yes. Great.
All they go through.
All right, let's do heads. Heads lead right because we want to do it. We want everybody to do it because it's their first time. Okay, so we're going to do a hula through. Oh, actually, we gave it. It was how many people did we tell the call? I wanted it to be a forward answer call, just because. So list database, edit. Go find hula. Hula, there it is. Go. I want it to be a forward answer call because that'll illustrate something cool. Forward answer call. All right. So hula through is now a forward answer call. All right. Fine. Hula through. All right. Cool.
And it says,
Says-
I don't know how to do
It says I don't know how to do this. Okay. So here's you go and you process, say process or add over here. And then what you do is you drag the dancers around to wherever they end up after the hula through. And I'm going to say it's going to end up, oh, it has to be a through, so we'll end them up right there, okay? So they basically did a touch, a quarter, and a cross. I don't know how they got there, but who cares? And I'm going to set the number one lady, or all the ladies to that their roll directions to the right. So you set parameters on how the flow goes. I'm going to mark this as private so I don't accidentally give it to anybody. Then I'm going to say yes and save all the changes. through. And it'll be happy with that. Okay. So now put them after a hula through. And so we just did the hula through from the 8 chain through. So now we're going to bend the line. And now I'm going to call hula through again. And it's going to know how to do it if I can type it right. Hula guru. Hula through. Now you can also do it from the facing lines. And I can call centers hula through. And the program, what? Same typo.
We have to change the name of the call. No, I'll have to add that to the parse database.
Okay. So basically the program knows how to do it from that group of 4, and now it can extrapolate and do it from each box, each side, or the heads do it, or in your block, or any other distorted formation. All 4 couples hula through. That's how that works. And then later on, there's a way where you can tell the program to generate get outs using the hula through, which I'm not going to do. Okay, so there's that.
Now he has to go in and do all that.
I'm going to leave that to Debbie. So the program also has many other things moving right along. It's got our infamous Cedar chest definitions in here. So here's some of our definitions that are all online on our website.
But it's offline, so
Yeah,
you can do
it's
it.
offline.
It's all in here.
And if you want the Czech version, you click on that. You want the Swedish version, you click on that. And make it a little bit larger so you can actually see what the Swedish version looks like. So it's got all that. That's all our definitions online. We've got contra calls. I'm still kind of working on that. The web choreo database downloads all of the choreography from our website, so you can look through that, search for stuff, find stuff, add it to your own sequence databases. We've got.
I like the generate short sequences function.
What else do we got here? Definition database. This has CALLERLAB definitions, J. King definitions in it. What is that? I've got Burleson's in it, but they're all hidden from you because of copyright issues. So it's got a bunch of definitions of different kinds here. What else do we have? Oh, so there's a help database and a fact database, which is also grabbed from our website. So here's a question that somebody asked about circular choreography. How do I make, how do I use it? How does CSDS use it? We have a help database online that has this, like this particular one here shows the special characters used when you edit a sequence. If you put percent signs around something, that gave you that blue highlighting that you saw earlier. Okay, it shows you how to modify how the call's interpreted. If you do something like an all 4 couples, or say as couples swing through and roll, this is a way to force the program to do roll individually as opposed to as couples. Okay, because we don't have parentheses, and the program might need parentheses sometime to make sure it does what you want for that particular instance.
We have about 5 minutes. If there's any questions, I have one question, but I want to see if anyone else has a. Okay.
Castle, Philadelphia. Say you've got a small screen, or you want the added, if your computer goes down, can you print out an entire dance?
You mean all the sequences from a dance?
Yeah, all the sequences, so that you can put them in a book or something.
All right, you can go to sequence and you can go to print. How's that? Okay, and once again over here in this section you've got this list of the sequences you want to print, and I'm just gonna, pick one of them, pick a short one. And so you can print them normal format, the rich text color with the format. You can send it to a printer, you can send it to a file, you can put all the sequences together in a file separated by an @ sign. There's several different options here.
But how would you get that from a dance? You'd have to copy and paste from your dance editing window?
There's all sorts of ways. You can right-click on a sequence and say print in you somewhere, right? I mean, we can go to view a sequence, right-click on it, and
Right,
say,
right, right, but
print.
she was interested in all of the sequences from a particular dance.
If you built a dance.
If you built a dance and you just wanted to print out all those sequences.
Well, let's see, dance, edit. I don't know if there's a function here to do that, but you can certainly, you know, highlight everything, take that, and copy it in that other
Right, that's what
window we just had.
Copy and paste.
I don't think there's a print function here.
Yet.
Yet. It can be added on the to-do list.
How long is your to-do list now?
Don't want
Well,
to
you
know.
could look on our website and you could search for a to-do list. You can see some of it there. But I've got scraps of paper all over the place with things to
Name,
do.
please.
Mike?
Mike Gormley. Actually, I got two questions, probably 3 or 4 or 5. But when making backups, what's the, without copying the entire thing, which could take forever if you have a large database, what's the minimum folders that should be backed up, and also backing up to the thumb drive that operates separately?
Okay, backups are good. So you notice when Kris edited the music database, it said you want to save changes. When you save that, it's always going to save the last backup as a backup. So if you actually screw something up in there, there's whatever as long as you don't make 2 sets of changes and say save, you're fine with a backup there. For the databases here, there's a folder called MDB, which has most all of your databases other than the sequences in it. It has your music, your dates, so I do that. Basically, the whole SQ data folder, as it used to be called, your application data folder, which is should have all your data in it. It might not have your music files themselves, the MP3 files themselves, but this will have all the data that CSDS uses under that folder. That would be a good one to always back up, or every couple of months.
I'm thinking my MP3s are in that folder, aren't they?
You could put them in there, you can put them anywhere you want.
Because then that really makes the backup long, you know.
Well, get a
So-
thumb drive with a lot of space. It's good to have everything backed up in one spot,
So you,
right?
well, and then the other thing was on the F1, F2, F3, how do you, the filters, setting up a filter. There's all kinds of if, ands, ors, buts,
Okay.
and, you know, I don't want you to explain all the ands and ors and stuff, but basically, can you bring up that drop-down list for a second?
Which one?
Filter, the editor.
This one? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right, let me back up here for a
It's
moment.
not coming up though.
I haven't clicked on it.
Okay.
I did that on purpose. But that's not the cleanest way to do it. Those 3 buttons are actually come packaged with the grid function that I'm using here to do the grid. Okay, those are a little more complicated. At least the editor and the help button are. The way to set the filter is you can go in here. You can grab a little, like I'm going to click on this little Y thing here on the label thing, and I'm going to pick Aussie tempos just out of the blue. So what you do here is you set up a filter by doing different things on the grid, and then you'll right-click on one of the buttons over here to set the filter. So here I'm filtering on Aussie tempos, and what else I might want to filter on? I might want to sort here. So I'm going to I'm going to replace this 5, the F5 jazz. So I'm going to right-click and say, set the button to the current filter. Okay. So it says it's going to replace the old filter with Aussie tempos, and it's going to sort by title and ascending. So I'll say yes, and then it gives me a name, and I'll type in Aussie. So now this button F5 is now set to this particular filter. So the question basically is how you filter things. So you can filter things by filtering on a column, which I just did for the Aussie labels here. Down here I'm going to turn the filter off. You can filter by putting something in here. I could put Aussie in here. I'm going to pick up Aussie temples, but also picked up this thing, this Yank Aussie Hoedown on 4 Cs. Okay, so I can filter using the little drop-down list here. I can filter On the column, there's another filter that you can look for. I'm going to click, where is it? This thing right here on the far right. It's called Customize Grid. Customize Grid. I'm going to click up this thing here. It says Column Filters. Okay. What Column Filters does is it adds this little extra line here, so you can filter each column by a particular phrase. Like maybe if I go out here in a genre and I type in pat or patter, it will only show me the patter music on Aussie here. And then at this point I can say right click and say apply to this button. Okay. And I'll say yes. Now it's going to show me where Aussie is in the text anywhere, and it's also going to show me where patter is in the genre column. And it shows you the filter down here, but it doesn't go all the way over.
You could also do that under the editor with the
you could also go under,
function,
the editor is a little more complicated. You go in here, so you've got genre flags contains patter and whatever. So you can go into this thing. This thing's a little more complicated, but it comes for free. The other stuff I wrote. But this little filter is very complicated and hard to use, so if you try it the other way.
It has been hard.
Yeah.
Okay, we are out of time. Thank you all for coming. I'd like a quick show of hands. How many thought this was useful, informative?